You hang out with A-Rod, so
Yes.
you know what a sports junkie he is. He is college football guy, NFL guy. You've been like this since the first time I met you. Yeah. Why didn't you play football?
Well, I always wanted to play football. I played in high school. I was a quarterback. But, I mean, when I started talking to my mother and my brother and my sister, they started kind of pushing me more towards baseball. And there's nothing like game day in football. But for me, baseball, being a Miami kid, having Dominican blood, baseball was a natural for me.
So can I share something about
Sure.
that? So I'll give you a little something. So we do our baseball show, the Whip Around, weeknights, and Alex is obviously a part of that, but not all the time. So there was a week where you came in, you did a couple shows, but I think Friday you were off, but we were still doing the show. So Alex just comes in to watch the games with us. Like, what are you doing here? He's like, you're not on the show. I just want to come watch the games.
And I don't have a life.
That's
too.
But he loves baseball.
Friday night, I go see KB when I'm not working. That's pretty sad.
But you were a kid sneaking into games here when you were a kid.
Yeah.
And were you a Hurricanes fan? I imagine a huge Hurricanes fan.
I was an enormous Hurricane fan and a huge Jimmy Johnson fan. And they built a dynasty here. And they did it by drafting all these young, talented individuals. And I used to take, Colin, 3 buses and a train to get to the Orange Bowl. They had the 1 o'clock games here. And then I would sneak over. The ushers were a little bit older and a little bit slower. And I would just jump over. And I got to watch free football because I couldn't afford the ticket.
Why can't the Marlins do the same?
Well, I think it's interesting. If you look at the Marlins, right, if you were to build out a business plan around it, I think you have to be very specific because although Miami's in the United States, is a very complicated market. And what worked so well for us with Miami and Jimmy Johnson was that he strictly drafted Florida kids. And he didn't really leave a, call it a 400-mile radius. And he had enormous success. I think the same is true for the Marlins. If you think about drafting players that are from Florida, from Miami, from Tampa, I've been playing high leverage games under the lights at the Boys and Girls Club in front of hundreds of people since I was 9 years old. So that's important. The other thing is, if you think about free agency, you're not going to get a discount from a California kid like a Stanton. You're not going to get a discount from a kid from Seattle because he's going to think Miami's probably more of a detriment than an asset. But if you think about Eric Hosmer and Manny Machado, you may be able to get Manny Machado and say, hey, I'm going to pay you not $200 like Baltimore, but I'll pay you $160 to come to Miami. With 7 years, the tax breaks that you'll take, is it worth it to come to Miami for that discount? And I think in a lot of cases, the answer will be yes.
Listen, we know that Theo, Kevin, what they did with the Cubs. The Cubs this year, there's great debate in baseball that the Cubs were amazing last year, but they don't have the leadoff guy. They are struggling on the mound. Is it possible the Cubs were a good team with good personnel that got absurdly hot, and the Cubs story is going to go back to being average? Is that possible?
I think it's definitely possible, don't you? I mean, when we looked at it last year, because it was story, because they were so great, and they had some moments of adversity in the playoffs, but they responded. But you got to remember, during the regular season, they dominated, and all these young guys were thinking, hey, this is set up to be a 10-year thing. But sometimes it's hard. You lose a piece or two, like they did. Big guys in the clubhouse too, and that's hard to recover from, right?
It really is, and what people don't understand, I talked about it in spring training when we did our preseason schedule. The hangover effect, it's unbelievable. It is real and it's tangible. What do I mean by that? You playing for Chicago Cubs, you haven't won in 108 years. Your emails, your texts, they're blowing up around the clock 24/7. There's opportunity everywhere to make money, to do commercials, to do appearances. We call it the banquet tour. It's hard to focus on the next season when you're doing so many things to celebrate the prior year.
A-Rod, you're iconic in America. Do you ever... Part of the reason that you still maintain such a life here is that you can hide a little in Miami. Because if you go, when you were in New York, good Lord, you're in the tabloids every day. It's fun when you're in your 30s. But like for you now, what is the Miami experience like for you on a day-to-day basis?
Miami's great for me. I have my 2 daughters, Natasha and Ella. They're 12 and 9. They go to school here in Coconut Grove. And Miami's a place for me that I'm indebted to because it's where I learned how to play baseball at the Boys and Girls Club. Is now where I come back tomorrow, and Rob Manfred and I, Commissioner Manfred, we're throwing out the first pitch. We're hosting over 1,000 kids at the Boys and Girls Club. And, Colin, I'm at a point in my life that is all about paying it forward. I played for over 22 years. I experience the good, the bad, and the ugly. I own the home runs as I own the strikeouts, and I think I have an opportunity and a platform to be able to help those that come after me to be able to say, hey, here are the mistakes I made. Just try to stay away from them and really just help them move, reach their goals.
The home runs are through the roof. It's funny. Baseball, though, it's funny. When scoring goes up in football, hockey, or basketball, we're like, yeah. Home runs are through the roof in baseball. We're like, oh, okay, what's going on with the baseballs? It's like, can you people just enjoy the game? I've gone to 2 Dodger games. I've seen 6 home runs. Votto hit one. Cody hit a couple. I mean, to me, it feels like we're getting home runs because the strikeout analytically is no longer bad. It's better than a ground ball. That's why I think we're getting home runs. Why are we, Kevin? Start with you.
I think it's a number of reasons. I mean, I think that. I think the thing about the home runs to me is when you see some of these guys who are not home run hitters and they're hitting second deck, third deck, it's a little fishy. I mean, you have to think that maybe the balls are a little bit tighter, but it's not just that. The bats are different. You know this. The bats are so much more compact now, and they offer so much spring. I think and I think your point is about the strikeouts. I mean, when you play, if you struck out, it's a bad thing.
Bad thing. Humiliating.
Awful. Nobody cares.
It's not. By the way, the ground ball now, I love Derek Jeter, but the ground ball at the end of his career was a double play ball. The ground ball now is what you don't want to do, right? So everybody's swinging up. That's what I see.
Look, Colin, anytime, whether it's business or sports, that you swing the pendulum, it goes way too far to the right, and people start going crazy. Now, we don't hire people that have anything to do with baseball. We only hire, Harvard, Yale, and Columbia business school guys that only know math. That's a problem. And here's what I mean by that. The last time a team won a world championship and led the league in strikeouts were the 1938 Yankees. That's a problem. The fact that you strike out 200 times a year and people celebrate it, and you can hit 220 and people celebrate it, that's a mistake. In order to win in October, you need to put the ball in play. That's what Kansas City did to the Mets. They drove them crazy. You need to get a guy in from third with less than 2 outs, and a number of things you need to do to put the game in motion. I think long-term is a big problem. You have to put the ball in play.
Aaron Judge is having a ridiculous first half. If you look at the history of baseball, he's not going to duplicate that. I remember when I was a kid, there was guys won't remember this name, Alvin Davis played for the Mariners.
Yeah.
You remember Alvin Davis?
Absolutely.
He broke into the league.
Number 21.
Yeah. Wow. You are a savant. So Alvin was a guy who broke into the league, fastball hitter. Nobody knew him. They threw him fastballs, bang, bang, bang. Second, third year, he drops off. I look at Aaron Judge and I go, okay, 6'7", he's got a big strike zone. Can he maintain this?
I don't think it's fair to maintain 30 home runs because that means he'll hit 60 or 70 home runs every year. But here's a guy, Colin, that I'm so excited for. For the first time in a long time, we have a LeBron James type of personality and size that can transcend sport. Here's a guy who's 6'7", 275 pounds, 9% body fat, 32-inch vertical. The guy bench presses 400 pounds, squats 500 pounds. And he's an amazing figure. I mean, and for the next generation to say, well, there's a guy that could be a tight end and an all-pro, and he chose baseball. Why can't I? And hopefully the kids are taking notes of Aaron Judge.
You know what's crazy about him? He was living at Times Square.
Yeah.
Remember last time we talked to him, he was living at Times Square. Of all the places you could live in New York, that would be about the last one. But I guess if you're 6'7" and that big, you could fit in, and no one's going to question you in Times Square.
Baseball has, Kevin, has an uptick in participation. And I'm wondering, like youth baseball now, I just had Manfred on, is going up and football's going down. You broadcast both.
Yep.
Do you sense when you're out in America that there is some NFL football fear and there is a rejuvenation of what's perceived as a safer sport, baseball?
I don't think that currently there's a fear for the NFL, but I know for a fact that there's a fear at the younger levels. Just from people that I talk to, that I deal with, whether it's with teams or just friends, they aren't letting their kids play football. They're letting their kids play flag, but they aren't letting their kids play tackle football. Whether that comes to fruition where it actually hurts the league, I don't know, 5 years, 10 years down the road, maybe. But I think there is absolutely a feel that there's going to be a choice. Let the kid play baseball year-round. I don't think there's any question about it.
Alex, what kind of quarterback were you? Little Russell Wilson?
If you asked me, it was a long time ago and you didn't watch me, I'll say I was pretty good.
Were you?
Yeah, it's funny. My senior year, the 3 top quarterbacks were Danny Cannell, Brian Griese, and I was third or second, somewhere in there. And they went on to have pretty good, careers at Michigan and Florida State, and of course played in the NFL. I do want to address what Kevin just talked about as far as kind of when I was a 9-year-old boy, we were the #1 domestic sport, right, in America.
Right.
And somewhere along the lines, we kind of lost the grip to that. But I do think for the first time, we have an opening. And I'm really excited about that. Like Kevin, I have 2 girls, not 2 boys. I would have a really hard time letting my boy play football, so I would let him play baseball.
You know, the other thing about, and this is not a knock on football, but football is a very unique sport. You got to play basketball early, and you got to play baseball and golf early. You got to figure out how to hit. You got to take a lot of ground balls. Football's a weird sport where you can join. Like there's a bunch of guys who like in the NFL that didn't play until they were juniors and
There's
seniors.
more and more of that.
A lot, and that's where I think football should go. Is listen, we're not going to tackle till about 15 years old. Brain's developing. We'll get out of that space. All right, Alex Rodriguez and Kevin Burkhardt. Who's going to win the home run derby? 30 seconds. Who's winning tonight?
I'm going to go a little wild card. Mike Moustakas picking the Moose.
Oh, I love it.
Going Moose. Wild card.
I'm going to go big. I'm a Yankees. I'm going to go with Aaron Judge. It'll be a great story for baseball.
Aren't you doing something kind of cool in the outfield?
Oh, we can't tell that.
No, we can.
We'll keep that a secret.
9 seconds left.
Fine, we'll keep it.
We're running
It's
out of time.
supposed to be
Save
good.
for the
It's
bell.
not a secret.